Hang on. We are live on Facebook, but the other two places are still. Okay, looks like we're good to go.
There. Okay. Hi. It like
Hi.
froze for a second. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Story Ninja Dojo with USA Today bestselling author Allie Cross
Woo, that's me.
and multi-award winning author Ann Hunter. Hi. Uh, Today we're going to talk about, oh, yeah, we discussed the
Oh,
we discussed shops and kiosks with black belt excellence in writing and publishing. Today we're going to talk about self-love and I think do a fun wrap up for February. Yeah, boss.
yeah, sure.
Okay.
That sounds good. Let's do it.
So, Allie,
Um, so how have you been, Anne?
okay, I'm
Yeah,
good.
just
Yeah,
okay.
I'm okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Um, you know what though? If you were to turn around and ask me that same question, you'd be like, yeah, okay. This has definitely not been a stellar period of time for me. So,
Yeah,
nah, that's how
I'm
I
sorry.
feel. However, I am happy to be here with you
Same.
because you're my friend.
Yeah.
And we're doing something that we've wanted to do for a while. And for the first time in our of the three times we've done it now, is this our third or our fourth?
I don't know.
Just our third one. No, I think it might be the fourth one, which is very sad. But for the first time, I think we are actually streaming to all the places that we
Huzzah!
said we were going to stream to. And and yeah, consistency, man. We don't have any followers yet, but that's a oh crap. I did forget to record. Although that feels less. I don't know. I don't think I
Record.
need to record
Yeah,
if we're
record.
streaming to places because I can always download it from YouTube if I need, right? Like it's on YouTube. So,
Okay.
anyways, because I was thinking that we should add this to, like, just make it a regular podcast as well, which would just be our voices, not our
Woo-hoo.
faces, you know.
Oh, we're so cute.
Yeah, yeah. But the cool thing about showing up to work, at least this particular job, writing, is that you don't have to be Miss Beautiful, you know. You can be Miss Congeniality. You can be Miss Karate Chop. You can be Miss First Line or Miss Hook'em or whatever, and none of
Sock'em
those,
sock'em.
yeah, none of those titles require being perfectly beautiful. They require showing up.
Yep.
And yeah, so how do we show up? Okay, so I think self love in this context falls into two, well, I don't know. Like, I haven't really thought about this. But like there's you show love to yourself by taking good care of yourself, and you show love to yourself by pursuing your dreams. What else? Is that
Positive
is
self-talk.
Yeah, but that's taking care of yourself, right?
Okay.
Like there's the kind of self-love you need in order to feel good,
Uh-huh.
and there's the kind of self-love you need in order to pursue your dreams.
Okay.
Do you think they seem the same thing? They're the same thing?
No, but I still think positive self-talk does apply to pursuing your dreams because you're not going to get very far if you're like, this is never going to work. I'm a
Oh,
terrible
for
person.
sure. Yeah. I was just thinking that like there's two different aspects, right, to self-love in this context. And we're not really talking about the spa days and the like, which are sometimes considered self-love. Like I think that you and I think that um, self-love is a lot about working. Like you feel good about yourself when you work, when you write
Yeah.
on a day or whatever. But okay, so do you want to talk first about the reason why I branched off there? Always feel like I need to give people a map to what is happening inside my brain because it probably seems like, oh, how did you go from it doesn't matter what you look like showing up to work to types of self-love. But it's because in my brain, I was thinking about the butt in chair thing that you hear all the time. And
Yeah.
Anne and I are like we call it stepping onto the mat. Like because the mat, if you're at a dojo or a training room, there are these mats and they can be any kind. Doesn't matter what kind of mats they are. It could be a painted on square on the floor. It doesn't matter. But what does matter is you can walk all around the mat and talk and do whatever. But the moment you step onto the mat, you bow to your master, to your teacher, and you're there to work. Would you agree, Anne? Is that how it
Yes.
is for you? Yes.
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 Actually, yeah, that's correct. We bow into the mat, and then you always, always, always bow on and off the mat, even if you're just got to go get a drink.
Yeah.
Um, and then you warm up, you stretch out, and then everybody lines up. We bow to the master, and then we kind of get like a breakdown of loose idea of what we're gonna cover that day and work on, and then we get to work.
Right. But my I like the idea for a writer, like for us, to I like the idea of bowing in when you step onto the mat kind of thing better than the butt in chair scenario.
Yeah.
Because most of us have our butts in the chair.
Yep.
It does not stop us from scrolling social media for hours or looking for the perfect image to
Even
inspire a character.
even if it's just
So,
the way it's phrased, I think bowing onto the mat shows more respect for yourself
yes,
than the term button chair. It's like,
yes.
are you ever having good thoughts when you think about your butt in a chair?
But bowing, so we want you, our generous and kind listener, who doesn't exist yet, but will in the future, because we are manifesting
That's right.
your adoration for the show. Um, we want you when you show up to work. Like love yourself. I think this is loving yourself. Show respect for what you're there to do. It's not a little fantasy land. You're not just piddling around. You're not, you're there to accomplish something, to be better today than you were yesterday. So don't think of your work time as butt in chair. Think of your work time as active participation
Yeah.
in
I would say
a
honoring
dream.
yourself.
Yeah. Like, who do you like? There's no one else to bow to. That, like, one of the ways that I see people, um, not like show me that they don't really love themselves is by all of the wishes they have. I wish that I was a writer. I wish that I had finished a book. I wish that I was a ballet dancer. I wish that I could travel around the world, or I wish that I could get a better job. Then why
Yeah,
haven't
so
you
do it.
done
Yeah.
it?
If
Like,
you want it, go after it.
yeah, it's an entirely different thing to say, I want a better job and I am going to school to improve my employability. I am working here to build up my resume. Whatever, right? That is different than I wish. That is, I am going to get a better job, and this is what I'm doing to get there.
Right.
Um,
And if you set goals with intention, you are scientifically, like they've done studies, more likely to achieve that goal than if you just say, "Oh, like I'm this year I'm going to do this." No, a goal is a dream with a deadline. So you put intention to it. You say, "I I want to be a better writer. So in the next week, I am going to dedicate 2 hours to writing." And then you'd be like that much better.
yeah.
So yeah, you've got to give goal, deadline, intention.
hmm Yeah. Wishes are, I don't know. What is that saying? Wishes are fishes. I don't even know
Oh
what
no, my
that.
grandma used to tell me if wishes were horses, beggars would ride.
Oh, that's one I haven't heard before. Um,
It's like because like if wishes were horses, then like everybody could afford one.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think so. I mean, that wasn't necessarily where intended to start. It's just where my brain took me. But I think that it's really important that self-love. So if we're going to show respect for ourselves by showing up with it with the intention to work, not just to sit at our computer, which is what button chair kind of whatever, but like if you're there to work. So what sort of things can we do to strengthen or show love for ourselves when, like, to either make that happen or to make our time respectful, like to ourselves? What kind of things? Like, I mean, we
Um,
all know it's difficult to carve out time from our families. So there's that. Um, and then the distractions. What do you do, Anne?
I'm during NaNoWriMo in November. That's a worldwide challenge to write 50,000 words in a month. The best way to achieve that goal is to dedicate just 15 minutes 4 times a day to writing. You can easily get about 300 words out of 15 minutes. So even if you can only manage 15 minutes a day, that is still honoring your inner writer. You can also stand up for yourself and tell your family, hey, I need just 1 hour at night or whenever you need it to do this thing that I have a desire to go after. Or even if that's not a possibility, then you need to carve out time before you get to work in the morning. Just get up an hour earlier. Like me hearing that, I'm like, nightmare number
Death.
fingers, fingers on the chalkboard. So I'm definitely that. Um, when I was in middle school and my passion burned brightest then for writing, I just grabbed 10, 15 minutes whenever I can. If the teacher wasn't looking, I'm writing. I'm pretending to pay attention to the lesson, but really I'm writing a book. So
That's
that's how
awesome.
I've done it. I'll try to take like an hour or two in the evening to work on business stuff. All of those are great ways for
Yeah,
honoring yourself and staying committed to your goal.
I agree. I started writing when I had 2-year-old twin boys running around. And And they didn't go to preschool or anything. They were just home with me. And I mean, time does soften things, but in my memory, I mean, I wrote, to be honest, I wrote more words when my kids were little than I have since they've grown up, which is very sad. But it's because
Yeah.
I personally have gotten partly distracted by the work stuff, but then also committed to some work stuff like this, like the Story Ninja dojo and stuff that we're trying to do. And that's okay. It's okay to change and whatever. But I think that back when my kids were younger, it was a couple things. It was definitely that I definitely taught my kids from the time they were 2.5, 3 years old that I was working, that this is me, mommy, working, and and I learned how to work even while hearing them running around. Now, I do have ADHD, so maybe that's why I could do that because sometimes I find it easier to concentrate when I'm familiar with the sounds and noises around me. It's almost easier than being in quiet. So, you got to do what is right for you, but for me, I I made that time. And then I wrote in the pickup line. You hear a lot of writer moms say that, but I have friends who wrote like during their lunch break instead of visiting with their friends, which was awesome. I'm all for friends, but still, they had a goal. And for that period of their lives, they were writing a book during lunch, not, hanging with friends for an hour or whatever.
Yeah. Been there, done
Um,
that.
yeah. And then I wrote at my kids' activities. Um, like I wrote all three of my Desolation series books while sitting on the hard and uncomfortable benches that line the outer like line the outside of our dojo where the boys were because we had lessons back to back to back. So someone was having a lesson and then I would go and have
Yep.
my lesson and
Yeah.
then I would be sitting down and watching while Xander did like demonstration team stuff. So like we were there for 3 hours and I wrote so fast to that awesome music and whatever. It was great. So, but the thing is, you can, if you're telling yourselves, oh, I can only write at nighttime, or oh, I can only da da da. You're a big fat liar and you don't actually really love like really believe in yourself and your goal. Because if you did, I think, and you didn't have those times that you can only write in. Actually, I don't know why I went down that sort of argumentative route because that's not my way. I'm just saying that if you really want it, darn it, you will not be making wishes or excuses either. Like you just do. You do what you have to do. And it is entirely possible to write a book 15 minutes a day. I don't even necessarily think you have to write every day. I think it's a great habit to get into. I have lots of reasons for that, but we can talk about that at another time. But um, I think that just like how they say with exercise, like if you just make a habit of going to the gym every day, it just gets a lot easier to go to the gym. And since there's nothing else to do at the gym but exercise, even if you're walking at a snail's pace or whatever, you're at the gym and you're walking. It's really just the same. You're showing up and there's nothing else to do here once you have bowed in, right?
Right.
You cannot be so, you're not scrolling, you're not whatever, you're working. But that might mean researching, like maybe you're not writing on a day, maybe you're researching. Um, but anyways,
Yeah. I want to
and the
add,
other, What?
I want to add when you get
Okay,
to
I think
your
I've petered
thoughts.
out because I don't even know what I was saying.
All right, all
So
right.
it must not
So
have been
I
that
want to I
exciting.
want to say like um looking back a lot, um paradoxically, I think the most writing I've done, like been the most productive, is when I had a lot of other stuff going on, because then you make it a priority. One of the things that are that it's a quote I really like. If you say, "Oh, I don't have time for that," what you're really saying is that's not a priority for me. So you need
Hmm.
to make it a priority. And also, at Taekwondo, we have a similar stadium system, and they have an office where I was able to go in and sit down at a desk and actually write while my kids were in class. But they've made it so you can't do that anymore.
Well,
And I wanted to joke that when you get into martial arts, like when a lot of your family's doing it, you're there every day, it kind of becomes like a cult. And the last thing I wanted to add about carving time out is one of the jobs I had in my 20s. They actually had this beautiful leather couch in just this attached room in the ladies' bathroom. It was probably there for mothers to nurse or whatever, pump.
mhm.
But I would go in there during my lunch and I would write, and it was heaven because it was quiet and it was comfy and nobody really came in and bothered you. So I think that that covers everything that I wanted to add.
Okay.
Make it a
Um,
priority. Don't say I
yeah,
can't do that. I haven't done it yet. Tell yourself that. Not I can't. Say I haven't done it yet. And two, instead of saying I don't have time for that, say that's not a priority for me. And then think about how that makes you feel. You'll
yeah.
find that you make it a priority a lot faster.
I was looking for, darn it. Um, Recently I was given or shown a quote and I wanted to share it, but I can't find it because it was just went right in so well with what you were saying. So let's talk about okay. So what so let's talk about self-love. Is it indulgent, self-indulgent?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a necessity.
I love this new time we live in because back in the 80s, it was definitely self indulgent. Like if you told someone, I'm sorry, I can't because I need to get to bed earlier, or I need some downtime between work and seeing you, or whatever the thing is. Like we just didn't use that language. We didn't know how to express what we needed, and it wasn't a priority of any kind. But I really love happiness. And I've done a lot of research and took a course and stuff about it because I haven't always been a happy person. And now I feel like I'm pretty much just a happy person all the time. Like, I don't feel well a lot of the time, and I haven't been feeling well, especially lately. But
I'm
that,
sorry.
eh, it's just like what, when we came on is like not super great, but I am still happy. So I've thought a lot about that. I definitely was one of those people who wished and wanted, but, would rather complain than do. And is that shocking, Anne? I'm like
No, you're
nowadays I
good.
like jump in with both feet and try to learn how to swim. And usually I do learn how to swim, but it's a big old mess till a lot of splashing around and everything before I can do the breaststroke. And it's not pretty to to watch or anything, but mainly I do that, I think, because the alternative for me is to second guess myself and doubt myself, and then I won't do it. For a lot of people, they need that time. They can research the thing and really think it through. And but more thinking time for me personally is dangerous. I will not do a thing if I have to think about it. Um, but that was not what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about how self love is not indulgent, it is necessary for our as a human being.
Yeah,
And
and I want to comment on that original opening that you said with it not being self-indulgent. It's easier, I think, these days because a lot more people feel that uh this blahness to say I need this time for myself, because if I don't have enough of me, there won't be, like, I don't have time for me that I can recuperate and re-energize, then there won't be enough of me to give to you. So I think
yes,
that's one of the good things about this day and age. I think more people understand that because they feel that way as well.
yeah. I always think of the safety thing that you get on an airplane that we all tune out of because we've heard it a million times, even though we're supposed to watch it every single time. But like, you know how they say that when the oxygen masks drop down, put your own on before putting it on your child. And we all go, oh, but how? Why? No, because that goes
Because
against everything that,
because if we aren't taking care of ourselves, we can't take care of others.
yeah, the oxygen can drop so fast on an airplane that you could literally be out of oxygen, whatever, passed out before you finish fixing it to your child. And they, might not be able to turn around and do the favor for you. So I often think of that analogy because to me, that's pretty darn perfect for anything. I think most humans nowadays feel pretty spread thin. And the idea that we're suggesting that if you want to make your writing dreams come true, you need to actually like make time for them and show up for them feels hard because you're already spread so thin. I think that if you really are being completely honest with yourself and you look at your entire schedule and you cannot think of any way, time, place that you can write, then it just may not be your time. And that's okay. You can set it as a future goal. You can say, I will revisit this when my kids are in school or whatever, and then show up for yourself and revisit your schedule then. You have to do what's right for you, obviously. But
An alternative to writing, if you don't have writing tools with you, you can always record into your phone. Just dictate. And
yep,
that you can just like talk mindlessly while you're driving and just, let the words come out, word vomit, and still
yep.
be able to pay attention to the road.
Yeah, exactly. I've had my sons like when they were littler, I would say like just push the record button, and they'd be like, "What? Why? Whatever." And then I started talking about this weird and random thing, and but they got used to it because I did that very thing. But I read this thing and I thought it was a good I wanted to share it. So self-love is a positive regard and appreciation for yourself. It's not narcissism. Narcissism is excessive self-absorption, self-interest, etc. Whereas self-love is a positive trait. And where narcissism is generally considered a mental health issue, self-love um, is a positive positive in your mental fitness thing. Like people who care for themselves um are do tend to be happier. They take action, they take chances, and they take on new opportunities. Um, and I could go into why and all of that because I think that those things are really important, but that's a sort of different mental thing. But self-love is important because it motivates much of our positive behavior while reducing harmful behavior. And which is amazing. It empowers us to take risks and to say no to things that don't work for us. And I love, love, love that. Um, so in this article, it says that 5 benefits to self-love are lower stress and high resilience. Do you have anything thoughts about that?
It just goes back to the tenets from Taekwondo, but we can cover that some other time.
You guys are probably going to like get a little sick of us unless you're a martial artist because there's a weird phenomenon. It must not happen to everyone who joins a dojo, but it becomes part of your life.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a cult. It is a cult.
what?
Martial arts is a cult
Oh,
because it just like everything becomes martial arts
it
and martial
really
arts becomes
does.
everything.
So much in my life, in our life, like my family's, because we did it together, and Anne's family is the same. Um, it it shapes so much. So we apologize, but I mean, we're
Don't
sticking to the
apologize. That's
brand, man. Like that's why we're here. 'Cause,
the entire point of the show. Don't apologize.
so, um, when you have, okay, so negative feelings and self-critical thoughts compound stress.
Yeah. And the way that I've learned to deal with that is just take a deep breath, deep through your nose, fill up your belly and your lungs, and say that thought doesn't belong to me. Exhale, release it with that exhale. Let it go. It doesn't belong in your life. And
Yeah.
you'll find that you feel a little lighter after that big breath and letting it go.
Mhm. Yeah. Anne's the queen of affirmations. So you're going to get lots of that here, and it's wonderful. My inner world is weird. I don't know. I don't know what I think about. I don't even know. Um, let's see what else is here.
Oh,
So, okay, so
backing up 1 second.
Yes.
You said something earlier about how is something benefiting you? One of the things that I have tried to be more mindful about is if I'm trying to get work done and I find myself scrolling social media instead, I try to
Yeah.
stop and say, how is this serving me? Is this serving me? And if it's not, helping you reach your goal, then you need to like step back, reevaluate, and then get back to your goal.
Yeah. That's great. How do you stop yourself,
I
though, to
just
ask the
realized like
question?
because like eventually you're gonna be like scrolling social media and be like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing that thing. And that's when you say, okay, how is this where I am right now, scrolling social media, how is that serving my goal?
Hmm.
And that's when you can break and
Yeah,
get like recenter, get back to what you're supposed to be
right.
doing.
My hyper focus is so bad that I actually have timers on my watch that go off like it depends. I've staggered them 30, 45 minutes. And it asks the alarm is called "What are you doing?"
I like that.
Because sometimes I get down a rabbit hole and I'm so focused, so intent on that whatever it is that I'm doing. And it's not usually social media for me. It's usually, I don't know, some like extraneous thing that is a writing adjacent or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but I often need to ask myself, like, what am I doing? But it's not I like the question, is this serving me? Because that's a deeper and more important reason thing for me, because it's hyper focused, not so much driven by it. I know it's not serving me. Like it, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That's the point. But it's okay to utilize whatever tools you may need to help you stay on task.
Yeah.
And something that I'm doing right now is I keep either a notepad like open on my computer or at my side, or my note. I have like the quick note sort of app on my phone. So I can just like right
Oh my
away get,
God. Having a smartphone changed my life that way. Having like once I discovered Notepad, just like worlds opened up.
yeah, because I have so many intrusive thoughts when I'm writing that it's very easy because they feel so important at the moment they pop into my mind, right? And they're often things that I've already forgotten, to do. But I am practicing writing them down, like just jotting it down and kind of doing what you said about the this thought doesn't belong to me, like just kind of trusting that it is recorded, it shall be done,
Yeah.
but
If it's
this
just
moment,
an
this
sorry.
time is for me. And that's true for whether I'm resting, like taking a rest, which is very important, or if I'm writing or exercising or, other things that I'm doing for myself because they're important and good for me. But then my brain wants to tell me, you shouldn't be doing this, or this because you've got all of these other important things to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So regarding intrusive thoughts, I think we should designate that there's a difference between negative thought and an intrusive thought. Because you could be sitting working and say, "Oh, I need to go change the laundry to the dryer." And
An
one thing you can,
intrusive thought.
yeah, yeah. And it doesn't necessarily have to be negative because nobody
Right.
thinks like, "Oh, I got to put the clothes in the dryer" is a negative thing. Nobody wants mildew clothes. And you can instead just take that breath and say, "I'll get back to that later." And your body and your mind, with some practice, will come back to that later.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been working for me. Like this is good. So there's that. Okay, so the second way that loving yourself benefits you is your willingness to take risks, but the good kind. So I actually I have this life philosophy, and I call it the tricycle. This is why I think I am generally happy now, even though I wasn't always before, because I think that everything is sort of in this triangle. So, um, you have like the thing that's happening, the challenge or the crisis or whatever. And then we have a choice to make how we're going to respond to that thing that's happening. And then we have the consequence. So that's like my three things. Like we've got I don't know how to make a triangle with one so I can point. Like I'll point at ands. So like in one corner is the choice, is the challenge, and then the top is the top of the triangle is the choice you make, and then the other side of the corner triangle is your consequence. The thing is, okay, you can put your hands down. Okay. The thing is that we as humans tend to be a lot like rabbits, and we just run our track, run the track, run the track. So like we're making the same choice over and over and over again. So it's whereas sometimes you need to take a risk and break free of that track. And then, so you've got your triangle like this, but you've made a different type of choice. So now you are like creating a new, like, you see what I mean? Like it sort of like goes up like that. Um, okay, you can put your hands down. Yes, it probably does make me
I
square.
want, okay, comment.
Yeah,
You said, the rabbit track going around and around, and you make that choice. When you make that same choice again and again and again, it's called developing a habit.
yeah. And they can be good or bad, of course.
Mhm.
But if things are not going your way, like you don't like the way your life is turning out or whatever, probably there is a choice somewhere that you can make that doesn't involve other people that can change the route, change your consequences. Um, they might just be super, super tiny little things. So we're not going to get into like a psychology lesson right now, but it means taking a risk, right? It's making a different choice, a choice that, yeah, a different choice, Allie. I was going to repeat it a million times. It's like that friend who comes to you and their boyfriend is like terrible, awful, and this time they've just like definitely done the worst thing ever and they can't go back, and you as a friend, you're like, thank goodness, yes, you're finally seeing the light. He is terrible, you can't go back. And your friend goes back, and then next month they're there complaining about the same thing, right? You can see that in other people, especially in like extreme situations like that. But the thing is, we are doing it every day.
Mhm.
If you think, like, for instance, we're talking about writing, if you're thinking that you don't have time to write, or that your last book was so bad that you shouldn't write, or whatever, um, if you continue, like if the thought comes, I really should write a book, but then the choice you make is, yeah, but, and then the
What's
reality,
a habit? Is it like,
and it's a yeah,
it's a
but
habit.
track. Goes round and round. That's so true. Um, if then you spend, when after the kids have gone off to school, you spend 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours on your phone, um, make
That's
a
at
different
least 15
choice.
minutes you could have done writing.
Yeah. So I think taking risks, I am all for risk taking. My mom, when my
I
mom, what?
tell your story because
Speak.
I'm dying to tell one about taking risks.
Okay. I also have a risk story.
You do
Who gets,
first. You do
okay,
first
I'll
because
go.
I'm constantly interrupting.
Okay, go.
No, you do it first.
Oh, me first. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's my story. Let's see how fast I can tell it. So, when my mom was dying, she planned her funeral and requested that this particular poem, be read at her funeral. And it's called The Risk by Anonymous. I'm sure you've heard it or versions of it. There's actually a couple different versions of it. The gist of it is, it's not just better to have lost and loved than never to have loved at all, although it is that, but it was, it was more morbid than that actually, because it really came down to, you haven't lived at all. Like if all you have are wishes, but you never take the risks to make those wishes come true, then you haven't lived. And I was sort of mortified. Like, is this how you feel, mom? Like, that's terrible and awful. And it was. It was how she felt. She felt like she had had opportunities and things come along that she hadn't taken. And as a result, she lived her life in regret and unfulfilled passions and skills and talents and all of the things. So I made the promise to myself that I would never do that, that I would not live without regrets. And I have surely fallen on my face a whole bunch of times because of that. But I also have no regrets. Like, I don't regret um, the mistakes I've made, even though many of them are quite public, because as I said, I tend to do things like right out in the open. Um, but it's also taught me how to come back to a friend and ask for forgiveness, which is feels very risky. But the thought of losing a friend, Anne knows this because I've had to apologize to her. Um, it's riskier to live with a friendship that has been cut off
Yeah,
prematurely or
that has
whatever.
that hanging over it.
Yeah, I don't want to live like that. And that's been a major choice that I've made in my life regarding risks. And I think I can honestly say this is why I'm a happier person and why I do accomplish some of the things that I set out to do. Okay, Anne, your turn.
Yay! Thank you for those thoughts, Ellie. Okay, so it wasn't until within the last 2 years after I had emergency heart surgery that I started um realizing I don't want to live a life with regrets. So one of my favorite sports quotes is you miss 100% of the shots you do not take.
Yeah,
So take them all. Okay. One of the greatest
Wayne
um,
Gretzky, the great Wayne Gretzky. So,
one
shout out to my home country, Canada. Woohoo!
one of the most thrilling um, events in sports in recent years would be this little horse called Rich Strike. You may have heard of him because it really was big news. It was almost like a fluke that only so many horses can get into the Kentucky Derby, which is the biggest race um, in the United States for 3-year-old thoroughbreds. It's very exclusive. You need a certain amount of points to qualify. So Rich Strike was like as he was on an alternate list. So if certain horses didn't
I really dig his
make it
name,
in,
by the way.
yeah,
Rip
but
Strike.
certain horses didn't make it in, then he could race. So what happened is like a couple days. Everybody was saying this horse, no, don't bother, don't even ship into Churchill Downs. There's no point because he's not even on the list to run. So like 2 or 3 days before he ran, the horse that was keeping him out of the race scratched, which means Rich Strike got in. And then they're like, well, don't, take it easy on training. He's not going to do anything. He's not going to impress anybody. And the most thrilling thing happened is that this horse that was like, he had ridiculous odds, like
Was
50
this
to
last
1.
year? Was this last year's horse?
No, no, it was a couple
Because
years ago.
last year's horse was pretty, there was a thing going on, wasn't there? About, okay, never mind. Carry on.
We can discuss it another time. The point is,
Okay.
this little horse that nobody believed in, with a trainer that had never won a big race, with a jockey that had come in from South America and never been in a big race, with a horse that had never won a big race or even run in one. He'd been just like low level stakes and allowances and
Yeah.
maiden races, goes on to win the richest race in America for 3-year-olds.
Uh-huh.
And just a stunner. It was almost like a fluke. So they took that chance, even though everybody was saying, don't bother.
Yeah.
You miss 100% of the chances you do not take. And they
Yeah.
took it.
Yeah.
I love that story. And it also happened with like Mind That Bird in the early 2000s. These cowboys from New Mexico drove up in a one-horse dinky trailer with this thoroughbred and ran him in the Derby, and he won.
Yeah.
It was like 50 to 1 odds. It was crazy.
This reminds me of all those movies I would watch on Saturday and Sunday afternoons as a girl, and about like some girl or boy who loved a horse and was training them up, and everybody said that horse is worth nothing. And but their dedication and by golly, gosh darn it, they managed and the horse would win, right?
Yeah.
Like I love those
Lord
stories. I devoured them.
Control.
Yeah. And we have to give a shout out to Mr. Vlandis, who is listening to us on YouTube. Thank you for
Uh,
listening.
Thank
Um,
you.
our first, a confirmed listener live is
I hope
very
you're having a good
exciting.
time.
Okay, so we have 9 minutes. So the other, let me quickly, I'm just going to say what the other three things are, Anne, and if you have something you want to say about it. So the
Wait,
next, number three is empathy. As a person with chronic illness who also has dreams, I feel like empathy is essential. Thoughts? Speak.
yes, yes, I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. You need to be gentle with yourself.
Right. So like how do you know the difference between when you need empathy, like it's okay, Allie, you are truly, it is okay for you not to do 1,000 things today. You can do just two or one things, and that's okay. And I still love you. Or, Allie, you need to suck it up and get on the mat. What is the difference? How do we know what is called for?
I think there's a good line. One of the things that I used to do is I would write on a sticky note before bed each night, and I had this one thing. I called it my golden acorn. If you've read A Piece of Sky, you'll know that what that refers to. That was my big thing that
That's
I
her
had to
book.
get done.
Nice job
Um,
putting in a plug there. A Piece of Sky by Anne Hunter.
Anyway, if that my golden acorn thing was the one thing I absolutely had to get done the next day. And then I would list like two others that I would like to get done that were also almost important. And then I would draw a line there and say, okay, this is, if I get them done, fantastic. That's icing on cake, but I don't have to get them done. So I think it's good to, especially with chronic illness, realize your limitations and work within them, because if you're taking care of you, then you're going to feel better and you're going to get more done, and you're going to also emotionally feel better
Yeah.
about the workload.
One time I was just so cranky, which is not really common for me. I was cranky and irritable, and my husband was chuckled to himself, and so of course I'm like, right, snap, snap, and he said, "You're PMSing." But why it was sort of funny was because I had already had a total hysterectomy at that point. So there was no such thing as PMS. And I can't remember what he called it. It was some clever thing but the problem, his next question was, when was the last time you wrote?
Hmm.
Because many artists experience this. The when once you start, it is a need.
Yep.
And when you don't fulfill that need, you feel unfulfilled. Oh my gosh, I am not a good talker at the best of times, and I'm worse today. So sorry. Um, but I think that I agree with you. I think it is important to really know what is important to you, and like sort of what if you struggle with chronic illness or mental health, or you are a caregiver for an elderly parent or whomever, anything that makes your life slightly out of your control kind of thing. I think it is your advice, Anne, is really good. Know what is important to you. Perhaps even consider, like, on a bare minimum day, what are the things that you
Yeah.
have to do?
What's your
And
golden acorn task?
yes, exactly. Or your wildly important goal if you
Yeah.
come from product development and stuff. Um,
So I actually use that at my kids' school.
oh, yeah, it's good, I think. And I do that. That is one of the things that I teach when in my chill author course. Chill stands for chronically ill. Um, because I hate
Way to
saying
plug
chronically
it,
ill.
Allie!
Yes. See, I'm usually not good at that. Um, But yeah, I think the difference between empathy and what is that word that means indulgence? Indulgence, maybe, is knowing yourself and what your true goals are. And I really think most chronically ill people are not really looking for excuses to not do things. Really, if you really
I think it's
can't,
the opposite, where like we're too ambitious.
yeah. So I think that if you truly need to give yourself a pass, you probably should give yourself a pass.
Yeah, yeah,
That is knowing yourself and loving yourself enough to know, because you love your goal and you want to achieve it. So if how you're feeling or whatever other, like taking care of your mom or whatever is the case, um, some things trump our personal goals some days. The last thing, okay, no, self-efficacy. We have no more time really, but self-efficacy, I think, is, well, it's proving yourself true, right?
yep,
Um, that isn't that awesome? Like, what a great benefit. You don't think you can write a book? 15 minutes a day.
yeah.
And
When
ta-da.
the world is crashing it down around you, and you look back and say, "How did I do that?"
Yeah. But I
It's really
did do that.
fulfilling. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So get something done, man. There is no better feeling. It doesn't even matter if it like sucks toenails or whatever. It is done and you did it. And one of the hardest things, so many million, even though everybody and their brother is a writer these days, it still is like 1,000,000 to 1 odds that people will finish a book. And so if you have finished a book, you have
You're one in a
accomplished
million.
something. Yep, it's brilliant. And then the last thing is setting boundaries. When you love yourself, you get better at setting boundaries. And we kind of talked about that right at the beginning.
Yes.
Um, and so that's being able to say no to other people, even to your children or to people who you respect and like. Sometimes it's no to yourself. No, Allie, you cannot binge watch Sweet Magnolias for 4 hours today because you haven't written yet. So maybe I only get to binge watch 2 hours because I wrote for 2 hours. But how much better will I feel at the end of
Yeah.
that 4 hours, right? Um, Whatever the
One
case may be.
one of the things that I've noticed is going back to what your husband said to you about you being grumpy, and he said
Yeah.
it's because you haven't written. And so I've seen that in myself. I deal with bipolar depression, and I'm medicated for it and all the fun things, but
But
I've
being
noticed
medicated doesn't mean that the illness just
yeah, it's no, it's
goes
still
away.
there. It just helps you feel a little more even keel.
Yeah.
So what I've noticed is even if I am grumpy while writing, I actually experience depressive episodes when I've gone long enough without writing. So it's
Mhm.
better to be grumpy and do the thing and get it done and feel good about it.
Right.
Yeah, we did the thing, than to, be,
Yep.
nosedive.
And I am saying this, like I'm agreeing with you and saying all this stuff as a person who has not been actively writing for the past year. Um, but I think Anne, it's almost been 2 years. It's been very bad. It's been a very bad drought for me. Um, but I haven't been my best because of it. I have missed it every day. I just, but I am overcoming that, darn it.
Okay,
I
okay.
am
What?
I'm doing
Wait.
what? Okay, go.
What wildly important goal in writing are you going to achieve in the next 48 hours?
Well, I was gonna say like we could just make that our kata for this
Okay,
week.
okay.
And I was going to say that, like, right now, my thing is that I am going to show up and write the first thing every day before I check emails. I used to do this. I used to teach other people to do this. I taught Anne, yeah,
What?
because but it's so much harder to do it for yourself, like to coach yourself, that it is somebody else. You can always look at someone else and go, "Oh, I know exactly what's wrong with
Yeah,
you, and
yeah.
let me fix it." But
That's
when
why
it's
we're
your,
coaches.
yeah. So, but I'm trying really hard to, I know it's worked for me in the past. I don't have a word expectation because I'm super rebellious and I don't like to put too many limitations on a thing or restrictions because it just gives me more excuse to butt against it. But showing up to write every day, um, today I wrote like 1,500 words, and that's the most I've written in a single sitting for a really long time, which is really sad because I used to be like a 5,000 words a day person, but that's okay. That was then. I am different now. This is a new me, probably a better me, even though I haven't been writing. I've been experiencing other things, and it will all equal me being a better writer because I'm older and better. It will, by golly, make me a better writer. But so our kata for you this week is to make a plan, whether that plan is to write 100 words a day or to write for 15 minutes a day or whatever works for you. Make a wildly important goal, writing goal for yourself. And we would love it if we could graduate to the part of this show where people were leaving us comments and telling us how they did on their kata. Um, so I'm putting it out there that whenever you listen to the show, even if it's 5 years from now, we still welcome your responses and we'll watch for them, because it's so much more fun to work together and to be able to cheer other people on, and that just helps us encourage ourselves too. So, but for right now, it's Anne and I and Mr. Vlandis. And so,
Atlantis.
so let's write some words this next week. And that is all.
Yeah. Should
So
we bow out?
we need a good way to bow. I still don't know how to bow out in my chair. Um,
I would just do
so
like a respectful bow forward.
I feel like we need like a clap because I liked the clap sound, when we clapped our hands to the sides of our things. So we're like, but bowing out is a visual thing. And so you are dismissed. I mean, thanks for coming to class and for working so hard. You are dismissed.
Take care.
See you next time. Oh, wait, next week, next month, and next week. I actually can't remember what we're talking about next week specifically, but next month we're talking about mythology and fairy tales, and we cannot wait. So now you're dismissed.
Finger guns.
Finger guns. I don't know. Karate chops. Kia! That's right. We're supposed to Kia at the end. All right. We'll see you later, guys. Bye. And I wasn't ready and don't have the things toggled off yet. So keep waving, Anne. We'll see you later. Bye, guys.